Hello everyone. This week we're going to be talking about Microsoft Intune. Now Microsoft Intune is an online service that Microsoft offers that allows companies, allows groups, organizations to manage devices, not machines, not necessarily, not just computers and servers, but tablets and phones and things like that. Now this is very similar to the way we would have an Active Directory manage all of the machines, all of the computers, excuse me. I use machines because I'm fairly old school, and that's what we used to call all computers. They were just machines. But now tablets, smartphones, and other forms of devices are now being used in business. And Active Directory didn't really have a robust way of handling this. And so Microsoft came up with Intune. This is a service, an online service that they have that you can subscribe to. And then using the service, you can manage the content on tablets that have been assigned from various, whether it's a company, whether it's a school. They can control the content on the tablet, including applications and login and things like that. So let's go down and take a look. If we go to our browser, you can use any browser. It can be Chrome, it can be Edge, it can be Internet Explorer, as long as it's fairly up to date. If we search for Microsoft Intune, you'll come across Microsoft's main page, their overview. Coming into here is pretty much an ad. However, if you scroll down on the ad for a little ways, you're going to end up at resources, and you can get an Intune overview. This is basic information about Intune, about the Azure portal. It allows you to sign up for a free trial here, a free 30-day trial, allowing you to see what Intune's all about. And we're going to use that for our lab this week. It also has Get Started with Intune. This is actually a tutorial, a walkthrough to get you started and show you some of the things that Intune can do. We are going to use this for our lab because the textbook was written last year. The data, the information in the textbook is fairly accurate and up to date. However, Microsoft has changed the interface rather drastically, and so all of the activities, they don't work. If you try and follow them, they just simply, you'll get to places where there are not links, there are not pages that are being described in the text. And that's just because Microsoft about 6-7 months ago decided we need to change this and overhaul it. So they did. As recently as you can see here, as recently as the end of July, they were finishing their tweaking and updating. Well, that doesn't help us with our textbook, which is published before then. So I'm going to walk you through some of the basic things that I'd like you to do in the lab. Be sure to read the textbook, though, because it does give good information on Intune, what it does and why we would use it. But again, you're going to see some of that just as we go through this tutorial. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we are going to sign up for a free trial. So here in the sign up for a free trial, we're going to follow the second option. The second option is for work and school accounts. You have an MATC school account. That's what you're going to be using. So click on this. This takes us to yet another page about signing up. Now here there's some information about before and after signing up. Now I want to point out down here, after you sign up, you should be getting an email message. You're also going to be getting a text message because they need to know that you are not a robot. That's okay. They actually truly don't use your phone for anything else, but they do need to make sure that it's not just some robot trying to spam accounts and then use them for whatever. So when we follow this link up here to get to the sign up page, we have to fill in all this information. You don't need to give a valid name, company name, or business phone number. You do need a valid email address. They're going to be sending information that you need to there. So fill out the appropriate region, United States. This is important because every area of the world has their own servers that they get assigned to, and those servers have different options and different functions depending on where you are in the world. We need to make sure that it's first of all going to be in English, and then second of all going to have the functionality that we're expecting to see. So that said, we put our name in here. Again, you don't have to put your own name if you don't want, but this has to be real. This email address does. Now, I'm not using my MATC email because I actually already have an account under MATC, and I want to show you the full walkthrough on how this is going to work. I don't want to just log in with my account. Phone number can be anything you want. Company name can be anything you want. And organization size, again, whatever. Just pick something. Once you have all this filled out, you may click on Next. And here, we're going to fill in information about your company. Now, this has to be unique, and so you're going to have to be pretty specific about what you're going to have here. You can't just have a generic company. Your password has to follow complexity rules. Remember, I was talking about complexity rules a few weeks back. They need to be at least 8 characters long, uppercase and lowercase. There you go. Hold on to it, and you see, if I hover over this, you can see the password complexity requirements. So I'm going to be Sean at, and now I need a company name that isn't going to be very obvious. So pick something, and it'll tell you if it's not correct. Eventually, you come up with something that you can use. I'll try that. I'm hoping no one's used MATC class exercise yet. All right, good. So it's good. So then here, I need to create a password. This password, again, has to follow complexity requirements. Otherwise, it'll kick it back out. Okay, so once we finished here, we click Create My Account. And then, oh, oops, I guess I mistyped something. Let's find out. There we go. Okay, now here, it is actually going to ask you to give you a valid phone number because they need to make sure you're not a robot. So you can either have them text or call, depending on how you want. They actually really don't save the number. This is a one-time thing that they do to make sure that you are not some script running just trying to create a whole bunch of accounts that hackers are going to use later on. So I'm going to give my phone number here. I'm going to click Text Me. They're going to text, and then we'll be right back with that result. Okay, and so this is what happens. They will text you something, and you will have a set amount of time. I can't remember exactly how much it is. It's like 10 minutes with which to actually enter the information. Whatever the PIN number is going to be, it's going to be a different number every time. So that's the code they gave me. I'm going to click Next. And then, ta-da! It comes to the final page here. This page is important. This is how you're going to get in to Intune. Notice the sign-in page is portal.office.com. We're going to be going in through basically an Office 365 portal. This is the username. You need this. Without this and without the password, you're not getting in. So make sure you write this down, take a screenshot, whatever you need to do, but make sure you have this information. At this point, we absolutely are ready to go. So if we click on this, it is going to bring us to a page where we may create users for Intune. Now at this point, I would like you to stop doing this part, and we're going to go through and start using the walkthrough, the tutorial that Microsoft gives us. We will start creating users, but we're going to do it through their tutorial so there's no confusion. So at this point, go ahead, close this window, and go back to the main introduction page. And here, let's do that. Close the window. Go up. I didn't mean to click on that, but that gets us there. Go to the main introduction page, which should look like this. And then if you click Get Started with Intune, this is going to take you to a series of tutorial steps that you can do. This is what we're going to do to get a feel for Microsoft Intune. Now, if you scroll down here, you're going to see some information about Intune specifically, what it is, and what each of these exercises do for you. We're not going to do all of the exercises, but we are certainly going to get you started with creating and managing users and assigning policies. So let's start with navigating the Azure portal. This is how you're going to get into Intune. This is how you're going to access your account and the software that they have available for you online. Now, it might be useful for you to have a separate window open with this information and then one window where you'll actually be doing your work, maybe in your virtual machine, but this doesn't have to be in a virtual machine if you don't want it to be, because we're not going to be making changes to the virtual machine. So this can be on your own machine or inside the virtual machine, but I suggest having a window with this information open and another window where you're actually doing the work. You may also, if you wish, download the entire thing, this whole information, all this documentation about Intune as a PDF. It's about 800, 900 pages, something like that. So it's kind of big. I don't recommend printing it out, but if you want to have a separate document to be able to refer to, you may do that too. So let's log in right now to Intune, basically to the Azure portal, and then start walking through the beginning of this exercise. Okay, so to log in to the Azure portal, which is where we're going to go, we need to click over here and go to portal.azure.com. That's going to get us to the Azure portal. Now, if it doesn't have you log in automatically, then enter your username that we saved from that Save This Info page and password, and you should get to a dashboard that looks something like this. Now, obviously, nothing there yet. So let's get to Intune. Let's find Intune here in our services, and then add it to our dashboard, to our links here. Now, it's going to be in More Services. If I go down here, click on More Services, and then in here, I can filter by Intune. It'll show me the Intune stuff. So if I click on the star here, it becomes one of my favorites, and it'll start showing up over here in my list, in my directory. There we go. Okay, so I close that, and now Intune should be at the bottom. Here we go. If I don't want it at the bottom, if I'm going to use it more, I can go over to the right, drag, and drop. Let me see if I bring it all the way up to the top, and boom, there we go. So now Intune dashboard is right here in the upper left corner, ready for me to use. So with that said, let's use Intune. And here we are in the Microsoft Intune Blade. Now, a Blade is basically a virtual server that is running on Microsoft's larger servers. Every individual instance of these virtual machines is called a Blade. And so we have our Intune Blade here. So this is our instance of Microsoft Intune running on their server. Now, there's some errors here. Don't worry about that. We haven't set anything up yet. So once we set stuff up, we'll be able to get our Intune configuration blade up and running. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to create a user. So let's go down to users, and you're going to see there's going to be one default user. That was the user that we created when we first made the account. So let's create another user. Let's create a new user here. Click on new user, and I think Bob needs a user. So Bob, and the walkthrough online says you can use either the initial default domain or a verified non-federated domain name. That's not actually true. We need to use whatever we called ourselves up here to ensure that it's unique and that it's going to resolve. So in my case, MATC class exercise. I probably should have picked a slightly shorter one. This is going to be at onmicrosoft.com. This again should have been, you should have this written down with your information on Save This Info page from before. So if I do that, I let it verify. Oh, what did I do wrong? On Microsoft, that's what I did wrong. So be careful with that. On Microsoft.com. There. Now you can see they're verified. We are ready to create. The walkthrough is going to try and have you add the user to a test group that hasn't been created yet. So don't do that. Just create. Let's see. What password did we give him? So he's been given a default password. Write this down. Make sure that you have the password so you're able to log in and access Bob if you need to. And I should just note, it's a random password. It's going to be different for everybody that sets up a new user, even if you do call him Bob. So once you've done all that, go ahead and create the user. Now, once Bob has been created, we need to basically add him to our licenses for Intune, because just because we have a user doesn't mean they're going to be taking up a license for some service that we have. Microsoft gives you, the company, a set number of licenses, a set number of accounts that can use any of these different services. So you may have a company of 1,000 people, and maybe only 50 of them have access to Intune or are using one of the licenses for Intune. So we need to get to Bob, we need to get his license information and add Intune to his licenses. To do that, we need to get to Office 365, as that's where we're going to actually be able to interact with Bob's user. So if we go to another tab and go to portal.office.com, log in as ourselves, as the admin user. And once we log in as the admin user, we go over to users and then active users, and we'll see we now have myself and we have Bob. So if I select Bob, this is going to pull up Bob's information. Notice right now there are no licenses assigned to Bob. So if I edit this, I may, as it checks who we've got, notice I have Intune available as a license. So again, let me select the proper location. Remember, we did this on purpose. Where'd it go? No, we're not in St. Martin. Right there, United States. And this is important because this is where our licenses are. And I select on, and now Bob is officially has an Intune license. So save this information. Okay, now Intune has been assigned. So if I close, notice now Bob has an Intune license, which means Bob is able to add devices that can then be administered by Intune. So with that, we have created Bob, and he is now a full user of Intune. So if I go back to the Intune dashboard here, I am actually able to use Bob at this point to enroll devices and assign them to Intune. Before I do that, though, I'm going to create a group. Now, this is the last part of the tutorial I'm going to walk through here in this lecture. But once this is done, I'm actually going to show you what it will look like when we are actually working with devices. So let's do group first. So if I go to all groups at this point, we don't have any groups. So let's create a new group. Click on new group, and let's give it a name and description. So let's call Bob, the Bob group. That's what I'm going to call mine. And it's going to be a group for Bob. Hopefully, if you're working for a company, you're a little more descriptive than that. So what kind of membership we're going to give him? So here we have 3 different types of memberships. You're going to use assigned for this tutorial. Dynamic is actually a pretty cool tool that allows membership to essentially change as different conditions are met. So for example, if a user is perhaps for a device, if a user is using a certain device, and then they end up in some city, for example, instead of being in their normal city, if they're somewhere else, maybe some permissions are changed and there's a rule that limits what you have access to on the server or something. So it basically monitors a device, and depending on the state of the device, where the device is, what the device is doing, different rules will apply. Think of rules as permissions, like with files, where some people have access to some files, they don't have access to others. There are a bunch of rules that we can add in Azure and specifically in Intune that will allow these devices more or less access depending on where they are or what they're doing. Same thing goes with user. As user information changes, it may change the rules that they are governed by. So we're just going to go with assigned, which is the most straightforward. We basically are going to assign rules to this user saying this is what the user can do. So let's keep him there. Do not enable Office features. That is functionality that allows group members of the Bob group in this case, access to certain Office 365 apps that are shared among members of the group. So we're not going to do that right now. Okay, so right now there's no members of this group. Well, let's see. Anybody in here? Perhaps there's Bob. There is Bob. Let's add Bob to the Bob group. So click that, select him. We now have one member to the Bob group, and that's Bob. So let's create this group. And it's been successfully created. All right, so with that, we now have created a group for Bob. Now, this is how we're going to assign rules to people and to groups, essentially. And these rules that we're talking about are called policies. We will create certain policies very much, again, like the security policies that we were looking at earlier this semester. We can assign these policies to Bob or the Bob group in any case, which will then assign those policies to the members, including right now only Bob. And at that point, I will leave it up to you to go through the tutorials again, finish the policies, and when we get to enroll devices, that is where the next small lecture is going to show what's going to happen once we start enrolling devices and how we can configure and access and manage them here through Intune.